Yeah, I know. Okay. Hello and welcome. This is the Real Media Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Barlow. Today with me, my co-host is Cam Sandhu, Editor-in-Chief of Real Media. And my guests are Mohaan Biswas and Megan Brown from the IWGB, the Union for Delivery Riders, amongst many other things. But today we're going to be talking about Deliveroo, the gig economy, and how we organise a fight back in the changing world of work. So welcome to everyone today. Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Yeah, our pleasure. So this is the first one we're recording live, even if we do release it a bit late. But the point of the podcast is to get into the nitty gritty of how we actually organise to create change. I mean, I remember watching, for instance, I think Inside Job, or maybe it was one about the environment, and they sort of tell you how disastrous the world is and how crooked and corrupt it is, and they go, but of course we can be the change, and then that's the end of the documentary, right? So, you know, what we want to do here is do the bit that should come straight after that, which is, okay, what is it that we're supposed to do to try and make the world a better, a just and fair place, a freer place for everyone, you know? And I couldn't think of a bigger subject for our generation than the gig economy and sort of being in this line between self-employed and employed with no rights and no union and no big unions really looking to unionize people like us. So maybe you could tell us a bit about how you started off with the IWGB and how you started off with Deliveroo and what the experience has been like so far. Yeah?
So I joined after there was a massive strike in August last year of Deliveroo riders. Mohaan was there.
Yeah, so I joined during the strike as well. And so the strike was to do with... So Deliveroo wanted to move people from £7 plus one... £7 plus £1 per delivery to £3.75 per drop.
That's just in half.
So, well, less than half for some of the time, because it's if you're sat there for an hour in a drop zone area and you only get one job, you're only going to get that £3.75.
It's just like the lack of guarantee and to make an already quite precarious job more precarious, more insecure.
Yeah, so the drivers in 3 of the zones where they initially brought it in as a trial period.
But it was a unilateral, if you don't sign the contract, you can choose not to work for us. So not much of a choice.
And then, from that, the word spread between drivers. So I found it out. I was at work and another driver, I was picking up from a restaurant and he got his phone out and was like, have you seen what's going on? And it was everyone just kicking off at Torrington Place. And I was like,
so
what?
Torrington Place being the headquarters of Deliveroo?
Yeah, the head office. So then I left, I finished that delivery and went to...
So who was kicking off there and how did that come about?
So it was the drivers in Hampstead, Belsize and...
Camden,
yes. who went down there like en masse to strike, and then from that, other drivers heard, and the IWGB was there.
I mean, it was pretty noisy. Like literally, I saw footage afterwards of like mopeds and riders going through the streets, beep beep beeping, like making a big fuss.
How did that happen though? Was that like spontaneous, or had the IWGB been organised? Was there someone organising riders or getting people together? Or
it was spontaneous from the drivers. The IWGB had been involved before, like trying to organise, but on a much smaller scale. Right. So it was the drivers in those zones who had initially kind of.
That's what really galvanised the movement that's happening now.
Yeah. So what is happening now? What's going on with the IWGB and the riders now? Did you win that? Did that strike stave off that attack on your wages and stuff?
So the things that we won from the strike was to make sure that there was no victimisation and no reprisals after that. Because people were scared, and a lot of people. I didn't join in protesting in the strike because I was way too scared of being fired because we don't have the protection of being, we're self-employed, we can be fired at any point. So we won those victories. We also, if you'd signed the contract already of this new position, you could change zone, or you could choose not to be on the drop fee. But since then, the drivers have been living with this drop fee. It did come in. It was meant to be a trial for 3 months.
They extended it.
But they extended it
indefinitely.
But the main thing that's happening now is that we're taking them to a tribunal. So this is the Central Arbitration Committee, which is a slightly more informal version of an employment tribunal, to determine. We're fighting for union recognition in Camden, specifically because there are a group of drivers who were involved from the strike. So to get union recognition, which would mean that we have a seat at the table to negotiate with Deliveroo, and they have to listen legally. To do so, we have to be determined not self-employed. So that's the main thing that we're fighting for now.
You're fighting to be recognised as workers.
As workers, so it's a bit. Most people have only ever heard of self-employed or employed. So workers is the kind of in between, where you get you still file your taxes as a self-employed person, and but you get certain rights, such as the right to national minimum wage and holiday pay being the main ones.
Right. Yeah.
And then they say
which would be really significant for us.
Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it, that we're expected to go into jobs where that's not a guarantee at all. And I mean, it's like Deliveroo. Most people are like 35 and under, I guess. Is that right? Is that fair, or is it a
I'm
real
not sure.
kind of
split?
It's
I'd say
quite
it's kind
split.
of like the age range is quite. It's predominantly either like a migrant workforce, or like young people. It's that.
It's kind of
parts combined.
a lot of young sort of students or people doing it part-time, but then there's also a large migrant workforce who are doing it. I don't know, I'm doing it full-time and I'm not migrant, so there's all sorts really. There's quite across the board, for sure.
Does that present difficulties in organising? I mean, do you have to deal with different communities in different ways, or how's the experience been? Because also, you've got drop zones, don't you, where you sort of have to go and park up centrally at a spot, and then you go out to do deliveries when they come in on your phone or what have you. But is that where you try and organise other riders when they join in, or how do you get people to join the IWGB or join in with the stuff?
Yeah, that's so. Like for example, for Camden. But as part of the Central Arbitration Committee case, we have to have certain numbers of drivers as members and certain numbers to show their support. So that's like signing a petition saying that they're in favour of union recognition. So a lot of that was like 2 weeks of every single day, people going out to the zone centre in Camden and setting up a stall and talking to drivers between jobs.
Yeah, this is like each zone will have a meeting point where people will be waiting for, and it's like really great to start talking to people, especially if they're waiting for hours on end, or even like every 10 minutes that you're not earning. It can be quite significant. So it's a really good time to go. You're feeling the squeeze. How do you feel about joining the union? Let us, we'll let you know what's going on in the case, such and such.
Yeah.
And there's more kind of, we were talking about a little bit earlier, there's more kind of pressure as well because you're already in precarious work with difficult hours, evenings. So the people organising kind of have to do that on top of their work schedule when you work full time. I imagine that's been quite difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes challenging, but I definitely... there's enough of us to pitch in and help out, and the more we have, obviously, the more we can share the load. It's sort of part of a wider thing. I guess it's really inspiring direction everything's going in at the moment. There's we've had within the union, not with Deliveroo, but the chair of our branch of the union has won her case against City Sprint to be a worker. That we just got that ruling in January. So it's like these things that are happening, and we're a part of it. And I didn't expect to be a part of something when I joined Deliveroo, but now I am, and it's really, really great.
Yeah, so you weren't joining in. So I presume the guys who were IWGB originally, were they experienced trade union organisers, or I mean, do you know how they came about?
The IWGB, I believe, started with the cleaners at the University of London.
Yeah.
So they had the Three Crosses campaign, which got them. So they had agency workers and directly employed workers who were on massively different conditions and pay, and through their campaigns they won like equal rights basically for the agency workers and the directly employed cleaners. And then from that, I think Mags, who is the chair of the Couriers and Logistics branch, who won her City Sprint case, she got involved with the IWGB, and then it's kind of...
So the Couriers branch formed in 2015, and they've been doing sort of successful campaigns ever since then, after joining the wider union. So they've really been, really active, and had that support from the union itself. But it's mainly from the ground, worker led.
So this is what I was going to ask. It's mostly volunteer led, and everyone in the union is a worker for Deliveroo, right? Everyone in your branch is or a worker for, there's no sort of full-time staff. What sort of challenges and positives does that present? Because obviously you've not got full-time staff, but you've also not got a massive bureaucracy holding you back, and it seems to be that the big unions haven't been doing anything in this area of work. So I mean, what's your experience with that? As you guys, as you said, you didn't expect to be involved in anything. How do you find it sort of being a worker and an organizer?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I think the union. So one of the best weapons the union has is the law, and the IWGB has been like really good at getting like litigation against these companies, and it's that's the big kind of thing that's not us, that's not the drivers, it's the legal side of it, and that's so. Other than that, which that relies on there being members and numbers, and we have to grow. And that's where it's us doing it. It's not some external body that never really interacts with us other than when they want something. It's us doing it because that's how we fight, that's how we win. And people are winning, and it's that combination of us seeing how the unions manage to win in other situations with City Sprint, with eCourier, with...
So it's good that with the Couriers and Logistics branch, it's not just Deliveroo riders, but it's also people from City Sprint, people from Addison Lee, people from XL, eCourier, now the Doctors Laboratory, and I'm not sure, maybe some other companies we represent riders, but those are the companies that we're pursuing litigation against. So there's like the wider community of the couriers who we're trying to make sure that we help each other out, and I mean we literally also see each other on the road in London, which is like, to have that support, continuing support, is good, always good for morale, especially when you're doing it off your own back all the time, volunteer led. So that's really good.
What are the nuts and bolts of doing this then? Meetings? What's running a store like? I mean, who gets the flyers printed? What do you put on them? That kind of stuff. That's the kind of thing that often actually a lot of people don't know about, don't really ask about. So I mean, how do you find all of that stuff? Because I guess it's as new to you as anyone, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we have some people who are good at the media stuff and good at design. So we have people working on the social media side and the flyers, who are riders. as well. Just people who pitch in whichever sort of thing they're the best at, and volunteer to do that. Volunteering for the stalls, for the recruitment stalls, is relatively easy. Like, it's taken me time to get used to talking to people, but most of the time it's literally just having a conversation with the other riders and just talking, as we're talking now, explaining what we're doing and explaining from a personal side what my experience is and why I'm involved in the union. So it's helpful to have that personal experience. But we also have lots of supporters as well, who come out, and we can call on them and they'll come out and recruit for us as well. And we have people who are studying at the unis as well, who have more research-based knowledge and years of campaigning knowledge.
It's spreading the load. It's the supporters have been really important as well. So when we started the campaign, we had a big meeting with everyone from other trade unions, from pressure groups, from lots of different places, from just people who wanted to help, and it was getting them together and going, cool, are you free here? Are you free this evening? Are you free that lunchtime? And just to try and plaster the area.
Every little bit of time that everyone can pitch in is valuable.
Yeah. Did you find, because obviously it's really coming back in the kind of last year and a half, lots of these courier companies. I had a friend who worked in a publishing company, and then they kind of had lots of redundancies, and she organised in her workplace, but she felt some resistance from some of the workers, who probably not exercised these muscles before and were maybe a bit worried about trying to take on management when they were in such a position. So have you found people have sometimes been a bit nervous or a bit shy to kind of get involved?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I was worried to join in the strike last year because I was scared, and I've never trained in anything vaguely about this, so it's difficult for me to push myself to do it as well. So I sort of draw on that and just keep it real. I mean, we've had difficulties at times when, say, one of our activists was targeted for some trumped up charge, and he was put under investigation for it was just riding somebody else's bike that's owned by the company, but there's no specific rule against that he was aware of. So they said, we're investigating you, and in this time you can't work. But we started to galvanise a movement, and they just decided to back down. So it's that kind of thing where the publicity is really on our side, being able to say and clearly state we know what you're doing, it's really blatant, and we're coming after you, and we're not going to leave any man behind, kind of thing.
So all Deliveroo are is a PR machine. That is all they are. They are nothing else. They provide an app and they advertise. That's it. So if you can hit their public image with the truth, with what they're doing that people don't see, then that hits them, and they can't sustain the lies when people are being presented with the truth. And it's that as soon as they realise that they can't just keep putting up this smokescreen of flexibility, and it's they're not mutually exclusive things, and you can't have a company that's worth $1 billion, that's made their money off the back of people's hard work, being out there day in, day out, rain or snow, and not treat them right. And I think a lot of it's getting people to realise that that's all Deliveroo are. They are a PR machine. They rely on that public image. And the customers are with the drivers, the restaurants are with the drivers. And once people realise that you're not alone, there are lots of people fighting with you, and it's part of this bigger, massive fight that people have been fighting for hundreds of years, and as independent, self-employed contractors, we've been left out of all of this hundreds of years of people fighting for what they're entitled to. We're not fighting for anything more. We're fighting for what everyone else has, that we've just been left out of. And I think a lot of it's the solidarity. As soon as you start reading about it and seeing it, and it's everywhere, people realise, you know what, we don't have to be scared.
And it's quite underhand tactics. were speaking about the lead Deliveroo drivers, and that this is stuff that is worth getting out. That management were kind of infiltrating social chat where they were trying to organise, and then started victimising several workers who then struggled to get work. And you're right, the kind of image of it, right, is taking that image, because people sometimes don't believe that these companies would do this, but spending time trying to get into the chat room where a group of workers are trying to talk and infiltrate that, it's quite common, isn't it?
And other underhanded tactics they've had with us is it's fairly often that they'll put a surge on, so get a bonus if if it's really rainy or something, if they really need riders to come in for that shift. And so when we've had public meetings, they'll go, oh, there's a surge on at this time, coincidentally, so people will be discouraged. They won't be earning this extra bonus when we have a meeting on, or they'll be bribed Amazon vouchers to come to if they go to the office at the same time as at one of our meetings. So it's that kind of thing where, it's like really dirty.
But you get a buzz out of being in the union with knowing that there's more people joining and that there's successes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And do you have mates or anything who are in other workplaces that are in other unions, and what like the bigger unions, and what the feeling is there? Because I think a lot of what we've had what I know anecdotally from mates who've been in PCS, Unite, they found that they sort of get left behind. They never really feel like they're part of anything. Like, they pay for a service, do you know what I mean? You pay like however much a month for a service, and you get like some sort of benefits, and then someone occasionally turns up and they might or might not be very good if you have a tribunal and you're getting really shafted, but you don't know, do you know what I mean?
It's kind of because that, like, bigger unions like have this separate structure, like it's an obscure thing. It's the union rep who comes, visits you at work like every couple of months or something. Like the IWGB isn't that, and people like it's us. It literally is drivers, and sorry, what was the question?
Well, I guess sorry, I was making as much a statement as a question, which is my one. I'm the host. I'll do I guess I'm just interested to see if you've heard of you've got mates who are elsewhere and what they feel about their workplaces in comparison. I mean, I don't know if like you've got mates who work in offices and they're in a union but they don't feel it's as good as the IWGB or what, you know what I mean, or whether you don't really think about that.
I don't, not personally, but I'm aware of that kind of thing. I guess it's we are really the nuts and bolts of the organisation at the moment, of what it's really grassroots, and it's really good to be involved.
I think other unions are more representative kind of thing, whereas the IWGB is about campaigns. It's about us campaigning to get what we need. It's a campaigns-based union. That's what they do with the other kind of fields, not just the couriers, with the other kind of areas they're involved with. That's their main thing isn't about just representing. It's about representing and campaigning to get things done. Whereas a lot of other unions, it's not about campaigning to get things done. It's about, cool, you've had a problem, you now need someone to represent you in a hearing.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not the kind of core of what the IWGB does. Like, if they did, if you did have a hearing stuff, they would.
They're taking on the industry, I guess, of couriers.
It's that bigger
whereas
thing.
Maybe, I think sometimes it's. You can have that. Some workplaces are unionised, and that means that they win, but then another company in the same way might lose. Whereas, like, the IWGB seems to be representing people who are involved in the gig economy and the couriers from many, many different companies, and trying to get them all well aware of their rights and so on. So kind of more outreach and showing that there is, I guess, as you say, putting in the kind of getting the workers involved in a place that's really, really precarious and possibly difficult for them to organise. Do you think there's anything that big unions could learn from the IWGB?
I would say just keep actually achieving and making sure you're the workers are really involved and know what you're doing and are out there doing things. I guess we do have the advantage of not being tied up in a lot of bureaucratic stuff, in the sense of the fact that we're self-employed, meaning we don't have to call a ballot if we want to have a strike. I mean, a strike is a total last resort, and it's not something that we want to go to, but just an example.
Thinking about empowering the workers rather than, like, lots of unions, I think, from my perception anyway, it's about kind of people see it as the union doing things for them rather than the union empowers us to do things for ourselves. As I see it, that's what the IWGB does. It gives us the tools, the legal tools mainly as well, especially, that allow us to fight for our conditions rather than them doing something apart from us.
Yeah. Now, I think we've got a bit behind, so unless there's any other questions, I'm going to give you an opportunity to say, I'm just wondering if you've got any questions, actually.
No?
Cool. So we got a bit behind with recordings today, as we enjoyed ourselves here earlier. Yes, that was fun. So I'm going to wrap it up so we can move on to another interview we're doing for someone else, with someone else. But I wanted to ask you, firstly, are there any dates that people should be aware of, or any actions people should be aware of that they can support? And secondly, tell us how people can get involved and how people can support you generally, as well as with the specific dates and stuff like that.
Yeah, so absolutely. We have, the Central Arbitration Committee hearing is going to be on the 24th and 25th of May. That will be specifically to find out if we can be recognised as a union and to determine worker status.
So that's the 24th and 25th of May?
Yeah.
And what and how can people get on Twitter or Facebook, or can they send money in, or how can they help?
We have a crowd-pack fund, which you can find on our website, or the Facebook page should have a link. Generally, the Facebook page for the Couriers and Logistics branch gets updated very regularly. The Twitter as well. We have an Instagram feed as well.
I don't know if this is going to be out in time, but the Brighton drivers have their ride with us on Tuesday.
So yeah. But the Brighton campaign is ongoing as well. Even just writing to Deliveroo and saying we support you. In any case, but Brighton specifically, that's going on. Just flooding their inboxes and keeping us going, and having that solidarity is really important. Every letter that we get is valuable. Yeah, that's something that's actually quite underrated, isn't it? If you take the time to send positive messages, it really does count. It gets read out, and people forget. I feel like a lot of organising, we've gone back and we've forgotten a lot of some of the most basic stuff. But things like literally taking the time to tell each other that we're there for each other and we support each other. I think that's a worthwhile use of time if you can do it. So it's good to hear that. And with Brighton, Deliveroo being quite tough on the Brighton riders, is that right? Yeah, so they're on a drop fee contracts. They're getting £4 per drop. They were just flooding the zone with way too many drivers, and there weren't enough jobs for everybody. So I think the worst was £1 something per hour after costs.
Wow.
It was equaling out to, so people were just getting really, fed up. So they're asking now for, instead of £4, at least £5 per drop, a freeze on recruitment, which has happened. Deliveroo have noticed the campaign and have stopped recruitment in Brighton, so that's something, again, we have achieved. No victimisation again for anyone involved, and they're asking for a guarantee of the living wage. So these are things that we need support on, and all the contact details to write in and put pressure on Deliveroo and any restaurants as well helps. Yeah,
the restaurants, that's another good point as well, isn't it? Okay, cool. So I just want to say thank you very much, Megan, Mohaan, Cam. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for watching and or listening, listeners at home, the many of you I expect there to be. I hope you take heart from this, and hopefully we'll have more news and stories from the IWGB in the future. And check them out on Facebook, on the website, and give them support. Vocal, support Crowd Pack. do what you can and support this kind of union, because I think it's going to be the future of what we need here and elsewhere. So thank you very much today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Cheers. Wicked. Thank you. Okay, we're done. Cool.